Good evening, Westworld fans. Welcome to episode 2 of season 4. It has just concluded. Episode title, Well Enough Alone. Very exciting episode, a lot to unpack. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with my favorite storyline so far of the season, and that is with William, Caleb, Maeve, and now we have two big returning characters a lot of us have been waiting on. The scene opens, or excuse me, the episode opens with Clementine. Now, Clementine, we know she's had like such a decorated history over the last couple seasons. She's been used as a living weapon, kind of like a malicious code. We know about her connection with Maeve, how close they are. When we find her, she's isolated, living alone. We're assuming this is in the current timeline of 7 years after all the events in season 3. She's basically living off the grid, so to speak. Well, not really off the grid, but still solitary and by herself. She's kind of living in a beautiful mountainous region. The community seems to love her. She's just going about shopping and living her life. But unfortunately, William, the man in black, has found her. He asks her a direct question, where's your old master? Clementine tries to, of course, protect Maeve and act like she doesn't know what he's talking about, takes an immediate bullet. She tries to fight. We see she still has her skills from before, but the man in black is too powerful, sees all that coming, basically takes her out. And we know automatically he has bad plans for her going forward. That takes us to the next scene. We see Caleb and Maeve just still on their journey, trying to find out all the particulars about the man in black, what he has going on, what his future plans are. Uh, Caleb says something very interesting to her as far as why she returned. And I think this is something we're going to have to pay attention to as the episodes progress. He asked her, if you were happy being alone, why'd you come back? We know that in episode 1, she was living in isolation, pretty much just sitting with the memories from her past. We, of course, know that the assassination attempt seems to be the reason why she came back. And she kind of flips off Caleb a little bit, or kind of dismisses his question by stating, well, if I didn't come back, you would have gotten killed. I came back in the nick of time. But she really doesn't give her full motivations of why she's returning, because she could have stayed off the grid. She took out the assassin. She could have kept moving and stayed away. Why come back? Why involve yourself back in the human world, all these plots when you've gotten out of it? So that goes back to what I said in the the episode 1 review that I did. I feel that there's deeper motivations with Maeve that's going to put her at odds with Caleb as a human being. She's still a living machine. She has her free will, but she's never going to be completely human, and he's never going to be completely a machine and know kind of all the things that she knows, all the scenarios and all the power she has. So I feel like eventually, even though they're on the same page, because they have a common enemy in William, I feel at some point they're going to go on divergent paths as far as how to resolve his situation, as far as William goes, and how to resolve keeping humanity safe. So I think eventually we're going to have some issues with them. But going forward after that, we finally got something that was very interesting as far as Charlotte's big entrance. How does she enter? Well, first of all, we know that the man in black, we get some more of his plan. He's basically destabilizing the government. He takes over a senator and his wife, Senator Ken Whitney, and he mentions something that's very important. Basically, that as of now, there's 249 hosts. They're known as emissaries of the New World Order. And we're assuming if you're talking about New World Order, these emissaries are probably placed in key positions in the government. We don't know where. We know in this episode is one senator and the vice president, but who knows how much of Congress has already been taken over. And while this senator gets co-opted, the original gets killed, we see that Charlotte makes her big appearance. So just like I thought in episode 1, Charlotte is the one pulling the strings behind the man in black. So what is Charlotte's motivations? She says something very interesting. The senator's wife, Anastasia, doesn't kill her, injures her badly, but she mentions something as far as what she wants the host to do. She says, take her to the barn with the rest of the livestock. So that gives us an indication of pretty much what Charlotte thinks of us as human beings, livestock. What do we do as livestock in the real world? We feed on them, They're basically for our pleasure, so to speak, or basically to nourish us. So when we're thinking about what the motivation Charlotte might have, it seems like it's something in that realm, basically some type of nourishment or food for the machines. So that kind of gives you some of that matrix type of imagery, but we really don't know for sure what the entire plan is. She mentioned some type of experiment that she wants to do with Anastasia. So while all this is going on, after all this is going on, Caleb and Charlotte, they get into a fight with these new hosts for the senator and his wife. She's able to take them both out, but something very important happens. We know that before with the original host, Maeve can take them over easily. She just, basically says, freeze all the motor functions, and the hosts are not able to do anything with her. This time around, it doesn't work initially. She actually has to engage in hand-to-hand combat to defeat them. Now, a little bit further on in the fight, she's able to focus a little bit more and eventually disable them, with her mind. But that's something that's never happened before. Now, according to Maeve, she believes that these hosts just have some new upgrades, and that's the reason why she's struggling with that. But it does beg the question, are her powers slipping, or is she having some type of internal problems, and that's causing her to struggle with these hosts? And then that leads to the other question of what's going to happen eventually when she engages with Charlotte or William? Is she going to have enough power to actually fight them? And if she doesn't have enough power, are they going to have the strength to be able to overtake her and basically make her almost like one of these superpowered hosts? So that begs the question of the limits of Maeve's powers now that she's coming back and trying to be in the fold. So let's go to the New World Order thing. Back to that, we have the Justice Department. They try and come to William's headquarters to try and have a meeting with him. They don't even get the meeting. They don't even get to go inside. We see that Clementine is now back. She's been taken over and she's now firmly under William's control. That kind of hints at the power of, or the lack of power that the government has in this new world. Basically, the power in this world is unlimited capital and resources, which William has. So the government and the counterterrorism division, the Justice Department, they're not even able to get a one-on-one meeting with William. He basically just shows them the door before they can even have a conversation. So that leads to the vice president coming in and actually meeting William on the golf course unexpected, or at least what he thinks is unexpected, to warn William, basically stating that everything that you've been doing, taking over these new lands, taking over the cartel, we've let that happen because it's happening offshore. It's happening off of government land. We let you do what you want to do as long as you abide by the rules, quote unquote. Now, we've already seen from episode 1, you don't threaten William. He doesn't, he doesn't take kindly to that. So he basically, the vice president comes there with 2 guards. They're taken out off screen by Clementine very quickly. The vice president is alone. And William, he puts in a really nice little story or metaphor when he talks about the weak are always drawn to the strong. The vice president mentioned something about F. Scott Fitzgerald, about being able to come back from nothing. William basically says Fitzgerald was a pussy. I'm more of a Hemingway guy. Hemingway was strong, and one of the things that Hemingway always talked about is the world is going to break you, but when you're broken, you can rebuild even stronger. And that's what I'm going to do with you as the vice president, and pretty much that's what I'm going to do with the government as a whole. He takes one of the golf clubs to the vice president's head, basically takes him out. So we can assume going forward that the government is basically kaput. It's really under the control of Charlotte and to a lower extent, William. So that's going to make things a lot harder for Maeve and Caleb. They're going to need more backup. I don't know where it's going to come from, but they're not going to be enough. They don't have the government on their side. They don't have the money. How are they going to fight this war? And I'm really concerned about this, this 249 emissaries that are basically strategically placed around the world and pretty much probably around the government. It's really putting Caleb and Maeve up against the wall as far as what they can do. So let's switch gears real quickly to Dolores' storyline. From the first episode, She had the encounter with Peter Myers, the man that seemed to be mentally ill but knew her background. He committed suicide. It's sticking in Dolores's mind. She can't dismiss this as just some crazy person that was obsessed with her. She feels like it's something deeper. And apparently she's right, because she's getting these little clues. Now, initially when she wakes up to go to work, she pauses. Before she enters the building, she has this guy, another person that seems to be mentally ill. He's a homeless man that's ranting and raving. He's talking about a tower that's infecting society. It has a song with no sound, but it has a song that he can hear and that the birds can hear. Key point, he says the birds can hear this, but no one else. It makes it makes Dolores pause and try to talk to him, but he acts like he doesn't see her. So that goes back to my prediction about this being some type of simulation, because there's certain people that it seems like she can't interact with. And before she goes into her building for work, what does she notice? She notices that there's a bunch of dead birds around. So basically, whatever type of song that this tower is putting out, it's killing the birds and it's driving the homeless person insane. And it's going to eventually come to Dolores, affecting her, but we don't know how it's going to affect her yet. But smartly, she doesn't go into work. This prompts her to go on the journey to find out more about Peter Myers. Now, initially, remember I said that we needed to keep an eye on her roommate, Maya? Well, the other person we need to keep an eye on is Dolores's / Christina, that's her name in this new beginning, her boss, Emmett. He's apparently tracking her. He tries to tell her that, what's going on. I can tell that you're not just taking a sick day. It's kind of sad they only have 4 sick days, mind you. But he says, I can tell that you're over in New Jersey. So what are you doing over there? And you can tell by the look on his face that he's concerned about what she's up to and what she's doing. So Dolores, rightly doesn't reveal everything that she's looking into, but that kind of hints that everything that she's doing is under surveillance. So while before I thought Maya was the most maybe dangerous one to look out for, that was the one that's trying to keep her in this sunken state, it might be Emmett, her so-called boss, that's doing that. So something to keep in mind. As far as Maya goes, she says something that kind of leans to her maybe being a good influence. When Dolores is talking about, I feel like I'm going out of my mind. I'm at this facility, the Hope Center for Mental Health. Peter Myers is listed as a big donor. What's going on? I don't understand it. Maybe I'm going crazy. And Maya tells her that, you need to trust yourself. The world may be going insane, but you haven't. You need to trust yourself and trust your instincts. And I'll be here waiting for you when you finally get back. So maybe Maya is actually the one that's trying to slowly wake her up, but realizes that she can't do it quickly because maybe that'll disable, Dolores's mind, being able to run through everything that she went through over the past couple seasons. So while I still think there's more to Maya than meets the eye, maybe she's not the negative influence that I thought she was initially. So that's where Dolores is at. She's basically still trying to put all the clues together and get out of this sunken state. I still think she's in a simulation, but we're waiting for her to wake up. And when she does wake up, what side is she going to be on? I feel like she's going to be the tipping point between Caleb and Maeve, which is, kind of the rebels and the good side, and Charlotte and the Man in Black, who are trying to usher in this new world order where the machines basically have the humans mentally enslaved. Now let's go back to the mentally enslaved point. One thing I forgot to mention earlier when we're talking about the senator that was taken over, Ken Whitney, and his wife Anastasia. So remember before Charlotte said, take her to the barn like the other livestock and we can do this experiment on her. So what experiment is Charlotte talking about? Well, when Caleb and Maeve, when they find her, she's in the barn chopping up the livestock, or basically the horses that she owned, cutting them up and killing them. So that kind of hints at the first thing. It seems like Charlotte doesn't want to kill all the humans, and just have a world of machines. She basically wants them in a subjugated state, the same way that the humans had the robots in the original Westworld. She basically wants them under control and slowly taken out of power positions. So how do you do that? It seems like Anastasia is the experiment where Charlotte wants to destroy and eradicate the human mind. And the way that she feels you do that is by first making the human eradicate what they love most. So in this case for Anastasia, she loved animals. She loved her horses. She loved her barn. So she's having her go in there and kill what she loves most. And that completely destroys her mind. So when she comes upon Caleb and Maeve, she's like, you need to save me, but the only way that you can save me and liberate me at this point is to kill me. So she attacks Caleb, and Maeve immediately takes her out. And Maeve makes an important point that Caleb didn't recognize. Maeve says she was already gone. You know, she may have been human or still human, but she's not like any human I've ever seen before. So we see this type of transformation that Charlotte is trying to make in all the human beings. So eventually, if she's able to create this army of mentally enslaved and mentally dead human beings, that's just another force that Caleb and Maeve are going to have to contend with. And here's something I thought about that I didn't think about. So what other humans have we really seen in this show so far in this season? Really, we've seen Caleb's wife and daughter. So what I'm concerned about is if the Man in Black or Charlotte, if she's able to get or he's able to get his hands on Caleb's family, are we going to see a similar transformation where Caleb might have to make the same excruciating decision with his own wife, where her mind is destroyed like this? He may have to put her down too. And if we get a scene like that, you know, more than likely the daughter's going to be somewhere around witnessing this horrific moment. You know how these shows do. But that's just something to keep in mind that I'm thinking about as far as what type of future human beings we're going to see in the same type of predicament. So going back to Charlotte, who's pulling all the strings in this situation. The big moment that we have in this episode is that we see that the Man in Black, the original William, is not dead like we initially thought. He got his throat cut at the end of season 3. I thought he was out of here, but Charlotte is keeping him alive and has him stacked up on this machine. It almost looks like the original Leonardo da Vinci picture of the human body, has him strapped up, has all these wires going in and out of him. So the question begs, why keep him alive? You know, the host is, seems to be doing everything, the William host, everything you need him to do. Why do you have the original William still alive? And that's what he poses to Charlotte. Why keep me alive? And she says something very important. You were as close to a god as a man can get. And she says that when you had this power, you looked at everything as a game. And as a game, you looked at us robots as the losers, kind of the pawns to be used in this game, which was the original Westworld. Well, now at this point, you're the template, and we're going to be using you as the losers for us, the machines, to take over. And she says, in order to do all this, I feel like she's kind of sapping how his mind works, because if she views him as a god, if she can break his mind and know his mind inside out, there's going to be no human being that's going to be able to go against her. Because we know how devious and just diabolical William's mind is. So I think she feels like if she can conquer that mind, there's no other human being that's going to be able to handle her. So that leads us to the other big thing that Caleb and Meg stumbled on when they're doing their research. They find out that there's another hidden world that's already in effect. It's kind of like a black market. Only certain people know about it. It's buried under an art institute in Los Angeles. So basically it's kind of like an invite only. And it's funny because the world is actually like a prohibition world, but even entering into it, it kind of is almost like a speakeasy, so to speak. You got to kind of have a keyword or password to know where to go and all that. And then once they get to the opening, it's really a train that takes you to another destination to get you to this world. So Maeve and Caleb, they're playing along. They have a little sexy host that you'll remember from previous seasons that's kind of guiding them on what the world will be like, getting all of their intel to make sure they have no pre-existing conditions, asking if they like the original Westworld. And once all that is out of the way, we see them, they're getting transported to basically back to the roaring 20s, mafia era, organized crime, so to speak. And while they're getting transported to this new quote unquote Westworld, we have William in the background describing it to the new shareholders, basically to the public. And we see off to the side, he mentions that the government completely backs and supports this. So we already know the government's been taken over. We see the vice president in the background, which is really the vice president. You know, this could be another host, but he looks angry enough where I think this is the original VP. He just doesn't have any power or control anymore. So he mentions, William, that we're going to come roaring back. This is our golden age. And it's even funny that we're looking at, or he's looking at the 20s as the golden age, because this is when prohibition was going on, when this basically was the birth of modern organized crime as we know it, because of something so foolhardy as prohibition basically created a whole multi-million-dollar underworld. So all that's going on in this new world that we're just getting introduced to. The episode ends as Caleb and Maeve are going inside, so we don't know all the ins and outs, who all the new hosts are going to be and everything, but that's how the episode ends. So we have a new world, a new Westworld, so to speak, in the new era, and Charlotte and William are just, well, basically Charlotte is really up and running. She's ahead. She seems to be one step ahead of everyone. So Maeve and Caleb have a lot of catching up to do to kind of get to Charlotte. You know, she's basically motivated on what she wants to do in the world that she wants to destroy. And she's got everything in place. She's got the government, she has William's money, and she has William's mind. So it's going to be hard to stop her. And, you know, and the only person I think that can stop her will be Dolores when she finally wakes up, depending on how much power she has. So that's what we're waiting on now. What I like the most with this episode is the reintroduction of Clementine. I think she's a great character. You know, the actor, Angela Serafian, she has such a stunning look with her eyes, so disarming. You know, she can go from being almost kind of innocent and ethereal looking to fierce and, you know, a ruthless assassin, as we saw when she had the Justice Department, the head of Justice Department, Jim Navarro, got him taken over by the flies, the mechanical flies. So she's going to be an interesting force. I feel like she's a wild card. She's under Williams' control now, but we know she has that past history with Maeve. So it'll be interesting to see if Maeve can tap into those previous memories to maybe turn her back to the good side as we move along in the season. But things are up and running. You know, we've gotten Charlotte. We still haven't gotten Bernard, so I forgot about him. He's the other person that we have to look at as far as what type of figure he's going to be. I can't see Bernard being an evil character, of course, so I feel he's going to be on Charlotte and, excuse me, I feel like he's going to be on Maeve and Caleb's side, but I don't know if I can see him joining with them, because from the state that he was in before, he's going to be coming back in, you know, almost like a godlike figure as well, but on the good side. So I feel like he's going to be someone that's going to be in and out of the storyline, kind of guiding everyone to a conclusion. So let me know what you think about episode 2. A lot happened. I feel Charlotte and the Man in Black are really up this episode. They look almost unstoppable. Caleb and Maeve are kind of slowly finding out what the full plan is by finding out this new world, this new golden age world is what I call it now. And we're waiting for Dolores to still wake up, Dolores/Christina. So a lot to unpack. Let me know what you guys think. Be back here next week. We're going to be looking at episode 3 right at 10 o'clock on the dot as soon as the episode ends. And thanks for tuning in.